Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ship Nuggets. This is Omo Imokwede, and I'm really excited to have you join this video broadcast. Yes, Ship Nuggets, your one-stop shop for leadership, followership, relationship, stewardship, mentorship, entrepreneurship, and worship. I got everything in one single breath. Ha! So, what are we talking about today? Today, we're talking about a very, very interesting and sweet and beautiful ship called followership. Yes, followership. You know something I realized? I realized that a lot of us like to talk about leadership. As a matter of fact, the last videos I did, I talked about leadership, and I'll keep talking about leadership. But there's another ship that works in concert with leadership, and that ship is called followership. A lot of us don't know anything about followership. In fact, I was one of them. About 10 years ago, I had the opportunity to lead a particular group. And while I was leading, I found out there were so many problems, and a lot of them pointing at me. And I was confused. I didn't know what to do. People were complaining about the way things were happening. People were saying that I didn't know what I was doing. People were saying leadership was the problem. And I'm like, what's going on here? So I went back and I started researching, started praying and asking for help. And as I did that, I realized that, hold up. The leadership dynamic is a relationship between entities that are called leaders and entities that are called followers. Each of these entities have their own responsibilities with regards to the success of the organization. So it's not all up to the leaders. You have people who are working in concert alongside the leaders to bring about the success of the mission that was cast within that organization. So I'm like, this makes perfect sense. And I then began to study and I began to research. I went to the Bible and I found out that even the Bible talked a lot about followership than even leadership. And I was like, whoa. This is an area that we need some focus. And to my shame, I had not really understood the concept of followership. I had heard about followers and I had heard about, being led. But every time the word followership or follower was mentioned in my circles at that time, it had a negative connotation to it. So there were some misconceptions which I began to kind of look into and found out that, wow, these are just misconceptions. And that if we had the proper understanding of what followership really is, then we would be able to utilize it for the benefit of the organization or the benefit of achieving goals. So what were some misconceptions? Well, one of them was the fact that there was this sense that if you were a follower, you were a zombie. You didn't have a brain, you could not think for yourself, somebody was leading you, and so you didn't have a purpose. There was a sense that only the leaders got the glory and only the leaders were responsible for the success of the organization. There was a sense that when you're a follower, you don't have a life of your own. You only do what you're told, and you don't have this sense of self acceptance, and everything you do is based on what somebody else is saying. So these are the misconceptions that were out there, and unfortunately, these misconceptions are still out there, and that's why a lot of people say, forget it. I'm not going to talk about followership. I'm going to even, just focus on leadership. In fact, I've read some places where some people just say, you know what, let's not even use the word followership. When I type in the word followership in my Word document back then, it'll give you that red wavy line underneath it that shows is this a word? Is followership a word? So again, these are misconceptions that fuel the mind of people that make them not want to understand the concept of followership. But the reality is that everybody's following. The reality is that without followership or without following, correctly and effectively, organizations will not be successful. I like what John Maxwell said in his book, 21 Laws of Leadership. He says, if you're a leader and no one is following you, then you are only taking a walk. I'm paraphrasing it. It's like, so if you think you're leading and nobody's following you, you're only taking a walk. So in essence, leadership and followership go together. I think I dare say that leadership and followership are two sides to the same coin. So if you're going to study about leadership, you should also be willing as a leader to study about followership. So I asked people, like, how many followership seminars have you attended? And they gave me like this blank look, like, ooh, I haven't been to a followership seminar before. Okay, how many leadership seminars have you attended? They can list a bunch. And so again, this shows also, in addition to the misconception, that there's also a disparity in focus between leadership and followership. There's a disparity in focus. If I did a Google search this morning, I typed in leadership in Google, and over 3 billion hits came out. 3 billion. Not talking about million, billion. In fact, I had to copy the number and paste it, in the search box to know that it was billion, because I had not seen that many zeros before when I did the search. But then when I did the same search for followership, I found it was just a 1.4 million hits, which is great, because as of 2010, when I started this research on followership, there were only a couple 100,000 hits on followership. So we've seen the followership construct evolve and grow over time, but there's still that disparity between the two of them. So what is followership? I haven't said all this stuff. What is followership? By the way, different people have studied followership over time. Zeleznik in 1965 talked about followership. Kelly, who wrote a Harvard Business Review in praise of followership and wrote a book which I am going to highlight right now called The Power of Followership. This book right here, very great book, good read. And he talked a lot about followership. So I'm not just giving you books that I don't read. I have this book right here. Good book to read. There's also this book called The Art of Followership. And it talks about, different followership, constructs, what followership is, what it is not, how it flows. This is another good book. Is by Riggio, Charliff, and Blumen. Very, very powerful book. And then, of course, I have my own book here on followership, Discovering Followership. I'm actually working on my second book. You can get it on Amazon, little plug for me. But I talk about followership, discovering it, uncovering the essence of it. So those are good books there for you to read. So having said all this, what is followership? From these books and from my research, I found that followership basically is a response. It is a response, simple and short, and it's a response. And as humans, we are constantly responding. And it's a response to what? It's a response to what is revealed. So whatever is revealed to you, it could be a mission, it could be a dream, it could be a vision. Your response to that is what? Followership. Followership is a response to that which is revealed. It could be God. You following that which is revealed to you is followership. And as leaders, you must always be responding to what is revealed. So the idea that a leader cannot be a follower is completely absurd, because true followership is just you responding to what is revealed. True followership is also a response to your role. So response to what is revealed, response to your role. What role are you playing right now? How are you responding to that role? That's true followership. True followership is also a response to relationships. Response to leader-follower relationship. Response to husband-wife follower relationship. Response to whatever mentor-mentee relationship. It is a response. Followership is also a discipline. It is a discipline because it takes some level of discipline for you to follow someone. It requires discipline. Discipline in what? In your competencies. Discipline in what? In your responsibilities. Responsibility is different from responsibility. Responsibility is you knowing what you can do and doing it. So it connotes some deliberate action on your part. Responsibility is just like your job, like what you do, what you should be doing, right? So it is a discipline in competencies. It's a discipline in your responsibility. I like how Marosis defined followership. He said, followership is doing what is right for the right reasons, courageously, in temperance and soundness of mind. So this idea that followership is just, something you do because somebody told you is not in line with this definition. And then I define followership as, your willingness and the ability to allow yourself to be influenced by what is revealed, by your role, and by relationships. So in a nutshell, this is what true followership really is. In the next video, I'm going to be talking about why we need to study followership and how it impacts us. So, what I'm just simply saying is, let's get into this ship of followership. Let's learn it. Leaders, don't just study about leadership alone. Get into followership, learn about followership, and let your knowledge take you and your organization, take you and your life to the next level. So, till the next time, remember, comment, subscribe, and like. See you at the top. Let's sail together to the top. Thank you.